It is a Friday edition of Figgie and the Moose. Marc, Malusis, Nelson, Figueroa with you. And Figgie, yesterday was a good day to be a Met and Yankee fan because I thought both the general managers, outside of maybe not acquiring a starting pitcher over the course of the last 24, 48 hours, really I thought they were aggressive. I think they addressed areas of need. I don't think they really overpaid. I think the Yankees clearly went out there and attacked the bullpen. They had a little speed and Caballeros from the Tampa Bay Rays, and the Mets have themselves a former all-star center fielder to take over for Tyrone Taylor, and now they have one of the best bullpens in all of Major League Baseball. So a little kudos to both David Stern and Brian Cashman.
No doubt, big market teams playing as big market teams should be playing, right, as you're trying to make a push. The Yankees, we know that the American League is a little bit watered down right now, and you feel like the Yankees, even though they've taken a step back and they're in second place in their division, you know, they still have opportunity ahead of them. It's all right in front of them. We've heard this before. Cashman, I said it would be interesting to see what kind of deals will be made. Would it be just around the periphery? Would it be just the kind of moves that we saw leading up to today? And you know what? He knocked it out the park with the way that he was able to get proven veteran relievers, a closer in Duvall that can help with that back end. You know, the uncertainty that you've had in the closer role this year. At the same time, you know, you have flexibility that these guys are going to be here for a few years. I like those moves by Cashman because you're going to have plus arms in that back end of the bullpen for the next 2-3 years instead of just a rental. And that to me, where the rental part of it, when you're in a win now mode, and I get it because now you don't have the commitment, but you do have the resources to lock those guys up. There's no problem with that. So you have them in the building more so than anything, right? I think that's what you're looking at.
Yeah, that's true. I think it sends a couple messages, too. We'll get to that momentarily. But you look at it, Devin Williams, Luke Weaver, you throw in Bednar, and obviously Duvall, the kid from the Colorado Rockies who's got tremendous swing and miss stuff. I think he averages 10.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. The Yankees needed to go kind of back to their old ways where they had some power arms. It was an issue, you know, a year ago when you look at it. They had too many guys in the back end of the bullpen that pitched to contact, right? You need guys, especially in the playoffs when you're going up against quality hitters, you need guys that got swing and miss stuff, and that's exactly what Cashman went out there and he added and he addressed. I think also he added a nice role player, and Caballeros from the Tampa Bay Rays, who's got 34 stolen bases on the season. Running the bases has been an issue for the Yankees. We know that. And he's not all of a sudden going to step in and be the starting shortstop, even though he's playing shortstop for the Tampa Bay Rays. He's not going to go out there and replace Anthony Volpe, even with his defensive struggles, Figgy. But what he does give the Yankees is some options. So in order to play a little bit of small ball, do some things a little bit differently. Boone talked about the other day about being multiple, right? About everyone kind of fitting together.
Yeah.
And I liked I really have no qualms with what the Yankees did. Now, they're banking on two things, right? With what Cashman did and what he did not do, he's banking on two things. One, he's banking on Judge returning. And when he does return, that he's back to being what we have seen from number 99 the entirety of this MLB regular season. Two, he's counted on Luis Gil, who's going to start over the course of the weekend to get back to be the pitcher that he was a year ago, because he didn't address the starting rotation. So those are two things the Yankees internally are banking on because, and let's be honest, you're going to make the argument if Judge doesn't come back, regardless of what the Yankees did, they're not winning the World Series this year. They need Judge to hit in the month of October. But those are two things the Yankees are banking on because they didn't address the rotation and they didn't add an offensive player.
And I think that's one of the reasons why I like what they did with the bullpen, where it wasn't just rentals. It wasn't just, you know, hey, let's just see what we have at the end of the season and then hit the reset button. This is the first time in a long time that I've seen Brian Cashman kind of, you know, go a little bit deeper in his pockets and not just worry about the top 5 prospects and say, these are all mine. I'm going to hold on to these with everything that I got, because we've never seen any Yankee prospects come up that you can, you know, hang a hat on and say that this guy was a bona fide star. What we have seen is opportunities maybe go by the wayside because you've been afraid to give up some prospects and give up some minor leaguers in trades. I mean, we just saw 14 guys leave the Yankees organization to get better, and that's what they did. The Yankees are better, undoubtedly are better today than they were last night before you went to bed, and I think that's what you were hoping to see is exactly if they weren't sure that Judge was coming back and going to be a factor that for this season to get them to the playoffs and get them to the World Series, then I don't think they make these kinds of moves. But I do think that when it comes to those bullpen arms, you like those bullpen arms moving forward, even if it isn't just for this year. Devin Williams isn't, guaranteed after this year as well. So you want to make sure that you have some arms that you can count on.
Yeah, I think more than likely it's going to be one and done with Devin Williams. I mean, I would think, right? I mean, especially with the moves that they made here at the MLB trade deadline, and he's looked a little bit better as of late. I don't think he's looked exactly comfortable in a Yankee uniform, but you call him the airbender, right? And Devin Williams with that nasty changeup, you've seen a little bit about that. Now, the Yankees got to play smarter baseball, right? They take
all the way around
the Rays. They won a game that was delayed 2 hours and 45 minutes yesterday afternoon in the Bronx as we dealt with all the rain in the area and all the flooding in the area. They win the game 7-4. Stanton hits a 432-foot home run. Ben Rice hits a home run. The alarming aspect of there's some things to clean up. So Cashman's added to the roster, Figgy, but the Yankees have got to stop playing dopey baseball. And that comes down from the manager, that comes down from the organization, the lack of accountability within the organization. At some point in time, you got to start playing clean baseball, because I don't care who's on your team. If you don't play a championship caliber style of baseball where you're clean defensively, have an understanding of how many outs there are in the inning, how to run the bases, understanding of when to go, when's a good gamble, when's not a good gamble, all those things. I mean, we're kind of wasting oxygen talking about this team trying to win a World Series for the first time since 2009.
And you're talking about Aaron Judge is how old now? He's 33?
33.
Heading towards 34, and you talk about wasting somebody's prime years. I know we feel like Aaron Judge is going to do this every single year, but honestly, can you afford to continue to not back him with enough resources and enough players and enough high IQ players to understand like situational baseball? Keep it simple. It's not the flashiness. It's not the spectacular plays. It's the routine plays that have to be made routinely. That's what the Yankees have been lacking for quite some time. And no matter who's been out there, we've seen it time and time again. We've seen some great plays from Dominguez. We've seen some horrible plays from Dominguez. Anthony Volpe, it continues to right itself every single day with every single error. The gold glove that he has is going to have dust on it for a long, long time before he's able to pair it up with another one. We know that for sure. And it's not the skill set, right? The skill set is still there. It's for some reason the game is speeding up. The not understanding the base runners that are running where he's throwing off balance, and we keep saying, oh well, if Ben Rice isn't a first baseman. Well, you know what? Ben Rice is a first baseman. If you throw him the ball in the chest, he's going to catch it. You're asking him to scoop it at 90 miles an hour and make every single play that gets thrown his way. That's not going to happen. So the guys that are expected to, Gold Glovers, are expected to make those kind of plays and continue to do that. All the way around, their defense has to be a lot better. And that's something that, surely is going to be missed with Aaron Judge not being in the outfield. So that's another big thing. But no doubt the pieces that they got, as they said, complementary, you lefty-righty matchups, all the different things. But you said something that I loved all day long is like all of a sudden now you want to be more like Toronto. All of a sudden you want to be more like Tampa Bay Rays. All of a sudden you want to be more like the other teams in your own division. And yet the Yankees used to be the gold standard. They were the Joneses, and everybody tried to keep up with them.
Yeah.
No longer is that the case.
No, the Yankees look in the mirror and they say to themselves, "We're not good enough. We've got to be something different, right?" I tell my kids, you tell your daughter, just be yourself, right? Everyone's got their own personality. Just be you. Like being a Yankee was good for a long, long time. Now the Yankees look at themselves like, you know what? I'm a little jealous of the Rays, or wow, look at the Blue Jays. They don't strike out all that much. Look at that offense. That's really, really good. Maybe we got to be multiple and be multidimensional and have different lineups it's just be you. I mean, that's really what the Yankees have gone out there and need to go out there and try and do. And unfortunately, this version of the New York Yankees isn't exactly steamrolling as of late, but give Cashman and company a ton of credit. At the MLB trade deadline, they went out there and they attacked. He talked about the fact that this team, and he was going to go out there and go to town. Well, he had a third baseman. He had Ahmed Rosario. He went out there and added
Slater.
Big time. Yeah, Slater. He added 3 big time relievers. He added a speed guy coming off the bench. There's nothing not to like about what outside of the starting pitcher. But like we said, listen, They need Judge, and let's be honest, if Judge doesn't come back, the Yankees aren't winning a World Series. And the other thing they're counting on, instead of going out there paying a hefty price for a big-time starting pitcher and giving up like a guy like a Spencer Jones, Figgy, they said, no, we're going to bank on Luis Gil coming back, being healthy, and he makes his return to the Yankee rotation this weekend. So that's Cashman and company. As far as the Mets, we'll get into David Stearns. If you didn't think they were all in, well, David Stearns said, hold my beer. They're all in. That's next on Figgie and the Moose right here on Pix 11 Plus. All right, welcome back. It's Figgie and the Moose on this Friday right here on Pix 11 Plus. Marc, Malusis, Nelson, Figueroa. Make sure to check us out tonight at 7 p.m. for Sports Nation Nightly on the old TV on Pix 11. And thanks to everyone for tuning in to that and right here each and every day. Figgy, we talked about the Yankees to kick off the program today. Let's talk a little bit about the Mets because David Stearns, Steve Cohen, you and I both thought, and there were people that had maybe a little PTSD from the Wilpon era that thought maybe the Mets were going to go out there, hold and hoard all of their prospects and say, we're going to build this thing the right way and play the long game. They said, the hell with that. Listen, Alonso might be opting out after the season. We just signed Juan Soto and gave him $765 million. We're getting 35 to 38,000 on average a night out at Citi Field. We're going to go all in. And they added Soto last week from the Orioles. They went out there, added Tyler Rogers for 3 prospects. Well, 1 established player in Budo and 2 prospects from the San Francisco Giants. Helsley from the St. Louis Cardinals. And then yesterday went out there and got themselves a center fielder, something that they desperately needed. It wasn't Luis Robert from Chicago. It was Cedric Mullins from the Baltimore Orioles. How about the job that David Stearns and company did?
Let's start out with the Cedric Mullins acquisition. And you go and look it up online. You're like, oh, he's only a 225 hitter. I thought you were adding offense, a guy who had some offensive ability. This guy has tremendous ability, a former all-star, a speedster, doubles machine, also a terrific defender in center field. If you don't know that, just watch last week's highlight play of robbing that home run in center field. The thing I liked about him over Luis Robert was he is a guy that went from being a young player who was a young dynamic player to being a mentor in Baltimore and kind of understanding what the team concept is, how to fit in with a multitude of different players or different teammates. The thing that I see with Luis Robert, we've seen him and his own coaching staff and manager complain about his lack of effort, complain about the way he goes about his business, get removed from games because he doesn't hustle. That was a guy that, you thought maybe a change of scenery could help him, being around, a higher caliber of players, moving from the White Sox. I don't think the Mets were willing to take that risk. I think you bank on a guy like Mullins to come in and fit in terrifically. And be able to be as dynamic of a player as you've seen him in Baltimore. He's trending in the right direction at the right time. His last 16 games, he's batting over 340. In his last 6 games, he's batting over 400, 2 home runs, 7 RBIs, 6 doubles. So he's hitting the ball with some authority again. For whatever reason it was, he started off slow. And right now he's starting to hit his stride a little bit. So that's a perfect time for the Mets to get him. And again, you didn't give up any of your top 10 prospects. All right. You gave up in the trade to get Rogers, even though it was a haul for the Giants and kudos to them. But you're getting an established veteran reliever who a submariner, a 1.8 ERA, 38 strikeouts to 4 walks. You don't have to worry about him walking the ballpark. We saw that with Brazelban every time coming out. It was either, lights out or please turn the lights out. One of those things with Brazelban pitched every time. So you don't have that anymore. You don't have that worry. You also added a closer who saved over 40 games last year in Helsley, who is a tremendous get as well, because now you don't have to depend on Diaz going 3 games in a row and worry about him being worn down as you get towards the playoffs. Reed Garrett is now going to be moved into a different role, something that he can not always worry about being in the high leverage situations. He's going to be in that 6th inning role, being a bridge guy now to those back end guys. And still, Gregory Soto, which we had last week, tremendous gets. And you also have the return of Brooks Raley, who looked great in his first few outings. Slow breaking ball, a different look from this bullpen. It's more dynamic, more diverse, and able to do a lot more things.
Listen, I think when, the other thing that's impressive for David Stearns, well, I'll give, a tip of the cap to Figgy is that everybody and their mother in Major League Baseball knew that the Mets needed relievers. The relievers that they had were either not that good, they were gassed, they were overworked, the lack of quality innings, depth from the starting rotation in terms of innings pitched, where there just wasn't enough quality arms. So he went out there and he was still able to get. And listen, it was a seller's market, so you have to give to get. But even with all that being said, and they're playing for this year because none of the three guys that they brought in, right around the deadline are signed past this season. So these are all-in moves for David Stearns. He didn't have to pay a king's ransom for those guys, right? He was able to get quality players and able to get them at a price where it was a little bit of an uptick, but it wasn't a steep overcharge. That's where you give the Mets president a ton of credit as well.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that you have to remember with what you're seeing, not just from the bullpen, but from the starting rotation, this team has had 40 pitchers in uniform this year. 40. Yeah. If you think about the starting rotation, has probably had 8, maybe 9 starters show themselves to the mound, right? And that means there's been 31 relievers that have put on a Met uniform this year. That's crazy. Already. So they've tried everything. They've tried everybody that they brought guys back. And Garcia, he went to the Yankees, came back to the Mets. They've done that several times over. They've used the waiver wire. They've DFA'd guys. Mr. Dickie Lovelady, you won't see him again in a Met uniform.
No,
this is not that kind of bullpen anymore, because now it's no longer let's tread water for as long as we can and then get past the All-Star break. You're past the trade deadline. Now it's full go. You got to let it all go. You got to let it all out there. And so now they've got reinforcements in a major way. And these are guys that are proven major league pitchers that you're not worried about.
Yeah, with the acquisition of Mason Miller, I'd probably make the argument that San Diego probably is the best bullpen in all of Major League Baseball, but the Yankees and Mets are not that far off. They're really not. No. And it's a bullpen game in today's day and age of Major League Baseball. And Cashman and Stearns went out there, addressed big-time needs. And not just with guys that are kind of flies and taking a flyer on, maybe a change of scenery, see if it worked. Guys that are proven, guys that have been high strikeout rates, have pitched in pressurized situations as well, and are all pitching really, really well this year. So Cashman and company did a really good job. Now, and so did David Stearns. Now, Figgy, let me ask you this. When you are on a team and a contending team, it doesn't matter, right? Pick, Carlos Correa is back with the Astros. There's a lot of teams. Major League Baseball had themselves a great couple of days. We'll get to that momentarily. What does it do in the clubhouse? What does it do for, Bellinger with the Yankees, Goldschmidt with the Yankees, or, Max Fried or Wells or Alonso Lindor, when you see your president and or general manager being as aggressive as both the Mets and the Yankees were at the deadline?
I'll give you the opposite, and you'll know exactly what that feeling is. Do you remember when the Mets were the last year of DeGrom, and they were told, let's see where we're at the deadline, if we're going to add or we're going to subtract? And they had won like 6 or 7 in a row, and all of a sudden they went into the clubhouse, and David Robertson was traded, who was their closer at the time. And everybody kind of just looked around at each other, and they were getting interviewed, and nobody knew what answers to give. I thought we were doing our part to be buyers at the deadline, not sellers. It could have went either way, right? When the Yankees were stumbling on their way down, you get down to being 6 games out of first place. Toronto's a runaway freight train, and you're thinking, okay, what do we need to do? How much are we in it? You look at the schedule coming up, and you see, like, realistically, where do we see ourselves? Then Judge gets hurt. You could easily have seen Cashman and co. and say, hey, listen, I don't think this is going to be our year. We're going to make some moves, but we're not going to go all in. Same thing with David Stearns. We know what they invested in Soto and invested in Lindor. They invested in Pete Alonso by making him the highest paid first baseman before Vladdy signed that deal. They're in win now mode. And I think what it does is it infuses the clubhouse with they believe in us as much as we believe in ourselves. And that's what you always hope for, that you're on the same page. To be in the know is great. And that was one thing that the previous regime, when I'm blanking on the former GM's name that came from Anaheim.
Billy Epler.
Billy Epler. you just saw the whole clubhouse had no answers. They knew nothing about what was going on.
Tank called him Billy and Epler.
But that was the thing. There was no communication with the players, especially the inner circle, right? The guys that are locked in long term, to let them know what was going on. And so when all those things were going around, there was such a confusion. There was oh my God, we're giving up on the season. Now what do we do? Then everybody starts playing a little bit more individual baseball, because now they're playing for their own numbers. They're hoping that, they make bonuses. They make, put up great numbers so that when they leave and they're a free agent at the end of the season, that they have a chance to sign elsewhere. That's where the season gets to be very, very long. Yeah. And I can tell you that because I've been on a lot of teams who weren't in contention. But any team that I was on, even the Mets team that collapsed, we collapsed in 2008 and lost down that stretch. As we're making that run and we're getting into September, you knew what we had. Was it enough internally? Yeah, and you expected them to be reinforcements. There used to be the trade deadline was one thing, but there was also waiver wire trades that you could do, and they were still making moves. They were constantly trying to make moves to try and make the team better. You just hope you were still on the team when you were somebody like me, when the team was trying to be made even better. So it is a great feeling. And for guys that maybe have been struggling, you know what it is?
Yeah,
it's a blank slate. It's a blank slate to start. Hey, start anew. July is over. Let's go. Dog days of August. Be that dog for the team.
Yeah, and for those guys that go from non-contending teams and playing really well to now all of a sudden be thrust right into the race and have an opportunity to realize your goal of winning a World Series. And overall, Figgy, baseball had themselves a great couple of days. We get into a case of knocking Manfred, at least I do, and knocking Manfred and knocking Major League Baseball at times. Sometimes I feel like they get in their own way. The deadline was fantastic. There was action. You had a trade, Suarez getting traded midnight on Wednesday night, Thursday morning, going from Arizona back to Seattle. You had a multitude of trades on Thursday, big-time star players getting moved as well. Correa back to the Astros. The Yankees and Mets were both active. So I think overall, I was surprised the Dodgers didn't do all that much, given the aggressive nature of that organization. But
they actually traded away Derek May.
Dustin May is now
Dustin May.
Yeah, Big Red is now a member
of the
Boston.
That's crazy.
Right. That's
crazy.
Exactly right.
Crazy. You're that good that you traded away a kid who hits 100, came off Tommy John, went through all the struggles, and you're able to trade that piece away in this day and age? That's crazy to me.
That doesn't make much sense to me, but maybe they felt like they just needed him off the top for whatever reason. But overall, it was you only had 3 games on Thursday. The action on the field didn't take away from the storylines going on. It was a great day for Major League Baseball.
Yeah, a lot of movement, a lot of bolstering. And we talked about one of the things that's difficult for teams is what's our reality, right? Where are we at now? Where are we going to be at in a couple of weeks? Like, are we really in this thing? The Pirates are very famous for that, right? We saw the Pirates kind of flirting with doing something last year where they were like, should we go? I don't know. I don't want to go. I just want to dip my toe in the water. I don't want to go all the way in, right? We saw what the Orioles were just a couple of years ago, where the Orioles ran away with the division, but they didn't get enough pieces to take that next step. Too much youth, too much enthusiasm, and thinking, it was going to be just as easy in the postseason as it was in the regular season, and it proved to be a much bigger grind. And 3 in barbecue, they were out of the playoffs very quickly. So for me, I think I enjoyed it. I saw some action where you were kind of questioning, like, Mason Miller. Wow, what are we thinking here in this day and age, where this one of the power premier arms in the game, a closer of this caliber, and the Padres went and got him. And I don't care what you gave up for him. You tell it was a shortstop. They have 3 shortstops that are playing at the big league level that are getting paid over $200 million. So that is nothing that you need. Think about it this way. The Oakland A's have an all-star shortstop in Jacob Wilson, who just got drafted 2 years ago. So you just gave away Mason Miller for that? I'm not understanding. Were the Mets not involved in this? Because I would give you 3. We've got 3 third basemen you can have. Keep Vientos and one of those Brett Beatty and 2 other guys. That's going to get me Mason Miller for 4 years? He's got 4 more years.
Yeah. No, it's crazy. Give A.J. Preller a lot of credit. He's creative, he's aggressive, and he keeps things moving and entertaining out there in San Diego. That does it for this edition of Figgie the Moose. Make sure to check us out later on tonight, 7 p.m., Sports Nation Nightly on Picks 11. Yankees back in action. Mets back in action later on this evening as they take on the San Francisco Giants. Figgy, I'll see you later on TV.
You got it, brother.
All right, you got it. For Nelson Figueroa, I'm Marc Malusis. This has been Figgie and the Moose. We'll see you later on tonight. Have a wonderful Friday.